Hello, everyone. I'm Danny, immigration attorney. I'm very happy to be here with you guys today to talk about visa and status options, basically immigration. Sorry I'm not able to be with you guys in person and to say hi to all of you. Something came up, so unfortunately I needed to travel, but this is an important topic. Now, before we dive in, first I want to thank the organizers for having me, as well as the employers for showcasing your company to these talents. And of course, I want to thank the students who are here today. Knowing your options early and learning about how you can stand out, this is very important. So of course, I'm preaching to the choir of your excellent students and you're wanting to get ahead. So all very good. Today we'll cover very quickly, because we're pretty short on time, but we'll cover very quickly some visa basics. And I want to spend more time on practical suggestions, because it's one thing to know the law, right? You can go online, go to uscis.gov. You can find out about these requirements. You can talk to a bunch of lawyers. But at the end of the day, it really isn't about the technical stuff. It's more about how you can stay in the U.S. So more of the practical things. Very quickly, by way of introduction, Danny, 陈启根律师. Been a lawyer since 2008. We've been practicing immigration since. I founded Green Maple Law Group, our company. We're now 18 strong. We're based in Newport Beach in Taiwan. And geographically speaking, after COVID, I don't think it really matters where people are. As long as there's internet, things can be done. Now, I want to convey the following so that you will appreciate why I think this is important, because I have walked through the path myself for immigration. I was born in Taiwan. Our family immigrated to Vancouver, Canada. Best place for dim sum, by the way. I then went to the U.S. on the F1 international student status for my law school. I went to Michigan State. Had I known more about immigration law, I may have taken a different path. But back then, I didn't do so much homework. So I took an offer in Hong Kong. That's where I started my legal career, shall we say. Then came to the U.S. first on a TN visa, because I also have a Canadian passport, and then on the E2. Right. So I want you to appreciate that I've walked through this path myself as a student, then as an employee, then as an employer. So some insights that I would like to share with you today, these practical pointers. Things we'll get to in a little bit. So, have you heard of these problems? I've graduated. I'm an excellent student, but no employer is willing to sponsor me on the OPT or on the H-1B or whatever other visas. So I find this discouraging, because I've graduated, I worked so hard for my degree, but no takers, right? You've heard of these problems. How about the other one? Employer is willing to sponsor me. Yay, awesome. But the job is unrelated to my field of study. Say, for example, if I went to engineering school, but the position is in sales or in marketing, what happens then? Right? So these are some of the common problems that we hear, especially for F1 international students. So, very quickly, some of the visa basics. There's non-immigrant, which is temporary. If you're here on the F1 international student, you're here temporarily. Yes, so F1 OPT, these are temporary abilities to study and to intern. Then there's the employment type of non-immigrant statuses, like H-1B. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. Terrible thing. There's E2. Many employers have heard of this. I know. There's L1, there's O1, all sorts of different non-immigrant type of work visas. But if today your goal is to be in the U.S. permanently, if your goal is to establish yourself in the U.S., if your goal is to have a life in the U.S., then guess what? You need something more permanent, right? This is what we call green card. So you can get green card through family, getting married to a U.S. citizen, or if your parents are U.S. citizen, or if you have a child who turns 21, your child can sponsor you. So this is family-based. For most of us in the room right now, the more practical option may be through employment. So employment type of green cards always start with EB. EB stands for employment based, and then first preference, second, third, fourth, fifth. If today you have the wherewithal to invest, of course there's the EB5, but notice that that's at the very end of the list. At the very top is if today you have excellence in your field of endeavor, lots of national or international level mainstream awards, yes, then that's EB1. For the most part, the majority of people in the world, how they get their green card is through normal type of employment-based green card. So that's EB2 or EB3, employer-sponsored green cards. Right, so very quickly, these are some very basic visa options for non-immigrant as well as immigrant options. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard about this. This is the H-1B. And I'm sure many employers have heard of this. Potentially, many employers may have been on the H-1B themselves if they were not originally from the U.S. Now, the H-1B over the last few years have become more and more terrible. It certainly is now what we would say the visa of last resort. Why? Because so many people need it. But there is a quota. Every year, only 85,000 spots are available. So it doesn't matter if you're an A+ student or if you're a C- student. It doesn't matter. If you're not drawn in the lottery, then better luck next year. So luck, not your own merits, determines your fate. And it doesn't matter who the employer is. The employer could be NASA, the employer could be Microsoft, or the employer can be Green Maple Law Group. It doesn't matter. If the employer does not draw a spot for you, better luck next year. Another thing that's pretty terrible about the H-1B is the field of study must match the employment needs. So recalling earlier, we had an issue, we had a problem, and that is if your field of study does not match what the employer is looking for, right? For the H-1B, that's a no-go. So the field of study must match. And another practical concern is cost. So cost to employer is also relatively high for these H-1B applications. Now, cost does not just mean money. Cost also means time and uncertainty because they've invested in training you. They've invested in wanting you to be a part of their team. But if the H-1B does not allow them to have you, then why invest in the first place, right? So we have to understand from a practical point of view, what the employers are concerned about. And we need to help the employers, help them help you, all right? By the way, that's the movie guy, so you can go watch Jerry Maguire. Help me help you, right? Anywho, this is why the H-1B is, a lot of times we would consider this the visa of last resort. So what are some of the other options? So some of the other practical options, and I know some employers do have these options, is that the first is the E2. So say if the company is from Taiwan, the company sets up a U.S. subsidiary. Can the company hire Taiwanese nationals in the U.S.? Yes, we can do so through the E2 option. No quota, no lottery, and even better, the field of study just needs to have a fuzzy match to the job description, and that will be fine. So by fuzzy match, I mean it doesn't need to be an H-1B exact match. As long as we can provide reason and logic to immigration, E2 can explain away why there's no exact match, and it should be fine, yes. To the employers, it is a great option because there's no lottery, there's no uncertainty. And the passage rate for the E2 is relatively high. So some examples, TSMC, TSMC. How are they able to hire and fly so many of their employees into the US? It's not through the H-1. No, it's the E2. L1's in some of the options, but that's one option. Lots of technology companies or food and beverage companies, 85 degrees, 八方云集, a lot of these companies, Taiwan-based companies, when they come to the US, and if they need to hire people here locally, what options do they use? They use the E2, all right? O1 is another option, especially for students who are in much higher degree levels, so masters and PhDs. If you've already accrued lots of accolades and high praise from those in the industry, then it may be possible for the employer to use the O1 for you. So, if the employer is not Taiwan-based, but if you are a Taiwanese, then the E2 is not available to you, but the O1 may be. Okay, so these are just some of the usual ones. Certainly not only are these options, but there's lots and lots more. But these are the more practical ones that we run into, especially for Taiwanese nationals. All right, now some practical suggestions. We're a little short on time, so I want to focus on this. This is what I wish I knew. This is what I wish someone had told me before. Number one, network. You're here, that's great. I think today there's 300 strong. Very good. You're networking, you're understanding your options. But remember, network is not just about having fun. Some people say, I don't like networking because, just a lot of socializing, maybe some drinking. No, but network has the word work in it. So you got to work it. And know your options. You have to know your options. Do not rely on the employer or your friend or your roommate to tell you what your options are. You have to know your options. The employer may or may not be familiar with immigration law, and quite frankly, it's not their job to know, right? You have to know so that you can understand what options may be available from the employer. There are internal policies at different companies on what they can do, what they're willing to do, but you at least need to know what the possibilities are. Okay. Second practical thing is a lot of students have the misunderstanding that F1 international student must go on to an employment-based visa like the H1B or the E2 or the O1 before going to the green card. Now, for many companies, that's their internal requirement, or that's just how they do things. But from a legal point of view, can an international student go directly to the green card? Of course. Of course. Just imagine, can an F1 international student marry a U.S. citizen and get a green card? Yeah. Can an F1 international student invest through the EB-5 program and get a green card? Yes. So why can an F1 student not get a green card through employment without going through visas? Yes, it is possible. F1 directly to green card. Now, possibility is one thing. The other is you have to respect what the employer is willing to do and what you're willing to do to make that happen. All right. So sometimes we have these great dreams. When I was going to law school, I wanted to be like lawyers on Suits, that show, right? But while dreaming big, we also need to be practical about what our options are. And by practical, what I mean is we have to understand employers, they don't need to do this. They can hire locally. They don't need to go through all the rigors, pay immigration lawyers. We don't charge that much, but all jokes aside, provide all sorts of documentation, let Department of Labor and U.S. Immigration go through all their documents, and maybe not even be approved, right? So you need to understand what options are available to you, but at the same time, understand what concerns employers face, the cost of time, cost of resource, cost of opportunity of maybe offering the position to somebody else, right? So dream big, but at the same time, also understand and be practical about what the employers need to do, and the cost to them. So this is a really short presentation. Go on our website, go on our social media, Facebook, IG, and YouTube. There's lots and lots of resources available to students as well as employers on the ability to stay in the U.S., immigration law. Also, you can explore possibilities of becoming an entrepreneur. Who says you must work in order to stay? You know, there are different options available to you, but I understand for the majority of the people, finding employment is the way to stay in the U.S. So understand all of your options. Network, very importantly, network with all of the employers, understand what they need, be willing to go that extra mile for them to be able to help you. All right. So if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me directly. That's my email. I read my own emails. Yeah, and look us up on social media if you need guidance on things, or just reach out to us and schedule a consultation. You know, we love to help students and we love to help employers because I was in your shoes once upon a time as a student, as an employee, and I'm in the shoes of employers now. So I understand the concerns on the both sides of things. But yes, you are getting ahead of others by attending this program. Continue to follow what they do. It's very important. And most importantly, one day when you are in the position to be able to help others, please do so as well. Pay it forward. That's what this is all about. I'm Danny, immigration attorney. Thank you all for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.